If you think of this as just a job, you won't last in the industry. It's not about a job. It's a profession, and we want to absolutely change people's lives.
How can a set of skills lead you down the path to success? That's what we're setting out to answer on the EdUp Canada podcast. I'm your host, Michael Sangster. Join me as we unpack how leaders around the world have taken training and skills and turned that into a lasting career. Now let's learn together. Welcome back to the EdUp Canada podcast. I'm Michael Sangster, your host, and we're here for another episode. And we're moving, as I said in the last episode, into talking to more colleges as we get a chance, college owners, college leaders, students, and graduates, because we really want to get some of those stories out there. We've heard from some of the students and learners and instructors that they want to hear a little bit more about opportunities. And I spent a couple of days with a team lately working on some of the stuff we're doing. And where did we start talking about was healthcare and things about healthcare we don't think about, that we think that our healthcare services, but our brain goes to we need more doctors, we need more nurses. My guest today is André Potvin from the Infofit Fitness Career College in Vancouver. And I'm going to give you them a quick intro because he's been teaching people since 1984 and opened this college in 1989. André, welcome.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Michael. Love being here. Loved talking about Infofit.
We're going to jump right in because I'm opened up on this theme of healthcare. What you do is train people to become fitness instructors. And if we were to think about that, health is wealth, right? If you're not healthy, you're not wealthy, right? So talk to me a little bit about what you guys do.
First off, we really want to enhance the quality of people's lives and help them towards their fitness goals or health goals. So we've just set up an entire program that allows me to train the trainers so that they can go out with the same philosophy and improves people's lives and get them more active.
How many students would you instruct in a year or bring into your program and graduate a year?
About 400 in a year.
400, and you're based in Vancouver, right?
That is correct. We're international with our online platform.
Teaching internationally, but not international students on site.
Yeah, we have some up until where the government changed the protocols for international students for career colleges. So that's a little bit of a difficult issue right there.
Yeah, we've dealt with that issue a lot in the last couple of years and last couple of weeks, and we're focusing back onto the positive stories about our sector. So talk to me, what does it take to get through your program?
First, when you call up and ask about our program, the first question we ask you is, do you have a passion for fitness? And they basically respond, most of them respond to yes. You have to have a passion for fitness to be able to go through all the education that you need to go through and then sustain a great career in it. If you think of this as just a job, you won't last in the industry. It's not about a job. It's a profession, and we want to absolutely change people's lives.
How long does the program take?
Our full-time diploma program is 3 months, which is 320 hours. Of that, it's 120 hours of in-the-gym practical training experience.
That's a significant amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of regulatory environment are you under? You're located in British Columbia. What does the regulatory regime look like for you?
Yeah, so we're the only fitness career college in all of Canada. And in BC, we're regulated by two agencies, the Private Training Institute branch and Private Training Career Institute branch. And basically, they are under the Ministry of Advanced Education, Skills and Training. So we're the only government-regulated college in all of Canada for fitness.
And you mentioned there was another organization that was regulating you as well?
Yeah, that was the Ministry of Advanced Education, Training and Education, yeah.
I always say to people, if you ever want to play tongue twisters, just start dealing with government acronyms. You don't have to go buy a game. Just play the PTIB or find an acronym of any government department in Canada, and you'll play tongue twister, won't you?
Yeah, you got it. So PTIB is a much easier way to say it, definitely.
We jump around a little bit. Talk to me about being a radio host.
Oh, yeah. So I had the fortunate opportunity in 2005 and 2006 to hook up with a naturopathic physician, and we ran a clinic called Interchanges. And what the vision of my partner, Dr. Brian Martin, he wanted to educate people on health, but also incorporate fitness. So he was the health side of it. I was the fitness side of it. Every Saturday morning, 11 a.m. for 1 hour, we had guests come on, and then it was open mic. So people asked all sorts of questions about anything to do with health and fitness. And we just educated the community. Yeah.
We always finish the podcast with a conversation about mentors, but let's talk a little bit about a student and an instructor you've had that just, you can't shake them. You remember it, they might still be with you, but that one of those individuals that had a big impact on your college and your own training career.
All right. So let's start with a student. I'm going to give her name as Mary. All right. So Mary came to us, and Mary had never exercised a day in her life. And she just wanted to be a personal trainer. And so, we never take anybody's dream away from them. And so she came in, never exercised a day in her life. She had a high school leaving certificate, and she came into the program, loved the program, started exercising, got so hooked on it and motivated by our mentors here and other students that guess what she did? She actually decided she was going to enter a bodybuilding bikini competition. All right. Now, this was a girl who never exercised before, was very petite, and was what you would say 2 left feet, if you will. She was very awkward. Anyway, she didn't care how she looked. She got up on stage, and she was the happiest. Her passion and her drive and her positivity and her motivation inspired me, my staff, and my instructors. She was incredible. She still is an incredible human being, an inspiration.
Before we go to the instructor, let me tell you, that is exactly why I'm so excited about this sector. And it's easy to focus on negative stories, and it's easy to be negative. That's somebody who has affected you to this day.
Absolutely.
Because of her positive energy and her approach. And that's what I find when I meet with career colleges across Canada, is that energy for the students, because smaller class sizes, 400 people in a year is a lot, but not really a lot, right?
We actually spread that out. So we have, Monday to Friday during the day program, Monday and Tuesday evening program, Wednesday, Thursday evening program, and then a weekend program. So that's spread out. So the classrooms are used 7 days a week.
And back to school is not Tuesday after Labor Day, is it, right? It just moves, the start dates move throughout the year, don't they?
Yeah, we just do one semester after another.
It's one of those great things that we don't talk about as much as we should. But I always like to tell people that back to school day is not one day of year. It's not twice a year, just after Labor Day and just after Christmas. There's always an opportunity to refresh your skills.
Yeah, every 3 months.
Every 3 months, new group starting, get in there, make a difference, right? So
absolutely.
Talk to me about that instructor, whether it's still with you or not, that just has also inspired you a bit.
So his name was Sylvain, and Sylvain was, he was a chemist by nature. And he actually was hired, his company was hired and flew him down to the trade centers when they had collapsed. And he was supposed to help them figure out what was the toxicities in the air and around to help with the workers, keep them safe. He decided he didn't like that anymore. So guess what he became? A real estate agent. And he was doing that. And then he decided, you know what? I'm going to become a personal trainer. So he hooked up with our company, and he was a personal trainer. We got certified, and I loved his energy. He was so passionate about being amazing. He had a great personality. And so I invited him if he wanted to become an instructor and take our apprenticeship training program. And he was all about it. He worked extra hard. He put extra hours in just to be the best he could possibly be. He didn't want to be better than anybody else. He just wanted to be the best he could be. And so he worked on his personality. He worked on his skills, and he was the most popular instructor in our school at that time.
That's incredible. Let's talk about the job market. I got to assume big need for fitness instructors out there. Do the majority of your students go out and do this part-time, full-time? What does a career look like if you become a certified fitness instructor? Most
of our students look for full-time work. And from the Labor and Statistics Board or Statistics Labor Board, they say there's a 28% deviation between the demand and the supply, which means gyms have more people who want trainers than there are actually trainers. So in terms of job prospects, it's pretty good for anybody who wants to become a personal trainer.
That's good for people to know. And one of the things about our sector, again, I always talk about is the fact in most of the regulatory environments we work in, there's got to be a career at the end, or we're not allowed to teach the program to students because we're privately owned institutions. And there is one of the regulations we face. I assume it's fairly similar to you as well.
Yeah,
Although you clearly have the job market there.
absolutely. And we bring the job market employers into the classrooms, and they basically do a presentation to our students, inviting them to come and apply at their facility. So the students are exposed to these employers. Then what we do is because we have such a strong reputation in the British Columbia, we guarantee them an interview, and we have a job opportunity tab on our website so they can pick any of the gyms that they want to, and we guarantee they'll get the interview. We even have a webinar with employers who tell the basic do's and don'ts of an interview. And so we do a lot to educate the students on how to get that job, the first interview.
You should get your students to listen to our podcast a couple of weeks ago with Sheila Musgrove on interviewing and resumes. It was quite an interesting review for me just to take a look at my own resume. And she did it for me on live during the interview to take an idea of what employers look at, what they don't look at anymore. It was quite a good discussion to have. So I'm going to assume you're much like the other healthcare sector-ish jobs we talk about, where the practicums that people go on tend to end up hiring them. So the gyms, they would go work on 10 on hiring them, don't they?
That's right. And in fact, I've had students say, well, I'm not, no one's hiring me. And I said, okay, have you asked if you could volunteer there? Right? And they all get accepted as a volunteer. And I said, that's a great way for them to see your passion, to see your integrity and your job quality, right? Work quality. And they all get hired, right? And so I said, if they're not accepted, you just volunteer and boom, you usually get in, right?
I'm going to go pivot here a little bit, go somewhere different. Talk to me about those 2 water bottles you showed us when we were getting ready, because
Okay.
everybody tells me to drink more water, but I saw a smaller one and a larger one, and now you dropped it on
Yeah,
us. We got some good sounds
yeah.
here, but talk to me about what you do in a day on fluids, because I think this is more important. We all hear about it, but I don't think a lot of us know what we're supposed to do.
Okay. So I have here a 4-liter jug. All right. And this is for 24 hours. So I have to consume this 4-liter jug, which is huge, in 24 hours. And so what I do is I have a smaller 1-liter bottle, and it's of course labeled Infofit on it, just to make
Good branding.
sure. Right?
No
Branding,
confusion.
shameless branding. And then I make sure that I drink at least the liter within the first 4 to 5 hours of work, the second liter in the next 4 hours of work, and so on. So I just keep refilling the big bucket or the small bucket, 1 liter, with the bigger bucket. And that way it regulates my fluid. Most people do not drink enough fluid. All right. And so when I say fluid, we're talking about, basically water. Try to stay away from drinks that have sugar in them, that sort of thing. So water is your best fluid replacement.
And if I want to get 4 liters of fluid and beer, that's not a good idea, is it, Andre? Yeah, that in the moment, good idea, but not a really good, healthy decision.
It was a good idea at the time. Yeah.
So I would guess that you'd say water, but what would be the greatest health tip you could give somebody that they could just immediately start taking today that would make a difference in their own healthy journeys?
Yeah. So physicians say it, all trainers say it, you just start walking. It's the easiest form that you can do. You just get out, you walk for 10 minutes. And then, the next day or the next 2 days, you try to add a minute onto it. And you try to start off, 2-3 days a week. And then slowly, as you push for 1 minute more, you start to get a little more motivated to do a little bit more. And slowly, as you tease yourself 1 minute more, you start to enjoy the activity more, and then you start to do more, and then you start to want more. One of the other things I recommend is you get one of those smart watches. The smart watches are amazing for inspiration and motivation. So what I do is I'll say to them, okay, today, every day, you have to get 250 calories burned, right? You can do it walking, you can do it cycling, etc. So let's say that day they only do 200. Then they realize, oh, I got to do another 50. So after dinner, they go out and get another 50 calories. It's an amazing way to track how you're doing and then give you the incentive to do just a little bit more. And so smartwatches are amazing for motivation.
I dropped about 40 pounds a couple of years, and I gave all the credit to my Fitbit
Perfect.
that I put on my wrist, and I didn't stop until I got 10,000 steps. I would walk around hotel rooms and felt like an idiot doing it some nights. But what I actually found it did is it also changed my eating habits, because I started to think, if I'm doing that right, what do I got to do to make a big difference? And 40 pounds melted off me in the matter of a couple of months.
Wow.
Really, really dropped the weight. And COVID put it back on because we didn't move around enough. And then we got going again, and I'm feeling good, but it really can make a difference. I'm with you on those Fitbits or any of those devices. They really do make a difference, or even just your iPhone in your pocket, right? It tracks you if you use it right.
And they tell you your goal for the day, how many steps to get for that day. You might start off with 5,000 or 3,000, and it just teases you to want to do a little bit more, because everything we teach our trainers is every single session, the client has to feel successful.
You teach fitness instructors. I don't think you've taught in other sectors, but what is unique about teaching fitness classes? What does a day look like for one of your students? Is it a full day? Is it a half day? What does it look like?
Basically, we want it to be flexible and have a lot of variety for all our students. So those people who can come during the day, we have our full-time diploma program that goes from 9 a.m. to about 3:15 in the afternoon. It's 4 days a week. So they get 3 days off to do homework and have a life. Then we have those who work during the day and they can come to class in the evening. So we have same certification, but two separate programs, Monday and Tuesday, a 12-week program, or people can come Wednesday and Thursday. Same program, but just different days. And then the people who can only come on the weekends, then we have a 6-week program where it's intense. It's 8 hours a day, for 6 weeks, 6 weekends.
Different options. So that's an interesting way. And so you can work that into their other careers. They can work that into family obligations.
That's right.
It's one of the great things about our sector is the flexibility to do things. So now I'm running a career college in Moncton, New Brunswick, and I want to add a healthy practice into my 150 students that are in some program over the course of a year. If you had a half an hour a week in their program, what would you suggest they do with a half hour to make their students healthier and create a good path for them?
Oh, okay. So two things. One, I would have some form of education information, and then I would have some sort of physical intervention with it. So education would be something about, okay, we're going to learn a little bit more about our diet. So you only spend, 15 minutes with it, and then you do 15 minutes of physical activity. And then that teases them to want to learn more about their body, right? But it's always fun facts, fun statistics. And with that information, they start asking more questions, because we all have questions about our health and about fitness. I go to a wedding and someone will always come up to me and say, so I hear you're a fitness instructor. How do I get rid of this belly? Right? And I
Walk.
Exactly. Right. So I asked them, I said, well, what are you doing right now to get rid of the belly? Right. And so that opens up a conversation. Right.
Are they standing at the dessert bar with a drink in their hand when they ask you that question?
Absolutely. Yeah. They're shoveling a pastry.
A pastry or a plate full of shrimp, right? But we all got to live our lives too. That is everything in moderation, right?
Yeah. So what I encourage and teach the students to do is they have to learn to nurture their mind, their body, and their spirit. One, they have to continue to want to be hungry for knowledge for the rest of their life. Two, take care of their bodies as it's the vehicle. And three, take care of their spirit through meditation, through motivational webinars and whatnot, so that they become a well-rounded individual that can handle the stressors of life.
We've been chatting a little bit about our conference in the fall and maybe having you guys do something to make us all be a little bit healthier while we're there. Because I think that would be valuable to teach some lessons to our members about just some of these things you're talking about. We know them, but we just need to do them, right?
Absolutely. It's one of the biggest things is getting them motivated to start. And once they get started, then we can keep, like I say, teasing them to want more, as opposed to overwhelming them right off the bat.
How are you going to get beyond 400 people? You don't want to just train 400 instructors a year, do you? You want to grow this bigger. There's no way you're even scratching the surface of the total need in Canada.
Right. So when I say 400 students, I mean in-person students.
In person, okay.
In person. We have a lot of home study individuals from different countries like Korea, Saudi Arabia, China, England, the States. So I don't have the exact number on how many we have on the online sector. But in terms of growing our company, we're doing a lot in terms of educating the public and educating the gym owners to put out the messages. And we're doing that through social media collaborations. So we're basically sending them video that we've done that they can put out to their members and their trainers and whatnot, so that they become more interested in Infofit, and they start watching more of our Instagram videos, and then they start coming more to our school. But we just don't offer certification. We offer continuing education credits as well. And then we also offer a personal training service where we actually have clients come in and we train them.
So you're allowing instructors to come back and keep upgrading. And I'm assuming the employers and gyms they're working with are interested in those kinds of services.
Exactly. And for the longest time, I used the tagline, we are your total career solution. We are your total fitness career solution.
I'll go back to one more thing and then we'll finish up with our big question that we always ask everybody. But I'm interested. You're really unique because, as you said, you're the only career college in Canada teaching fitness instructors.
Right.
So you must see the bad out there, that it's not a career college or another way that things are being instructing. Is there a change that you'd want to see brought to the industry? You kind of are the industry. It's a strange place you are.
Absolutely. First, there's a lot of poor quality certifications. There's companies or people that say, I'm a trainer and I'm going to start my own education company. So they create this education company, but they're not teachers. And so they do as little amount as possible, but try to get as much money as possible. So I'm not going to name names, but basically they just do an online study and there's no practical component to it. And all of our programs have practical components to it. It's a money grab in most respects. Some of them just have an open book exam. Now, the other thing is I want to see more accountability to gym owners. So gym owners requiring specific certifications that are of a higher quality and turning away poor quality certification. And so making them accountable a little bit more. And the way we did it initially, because it was the Wild West years and years ago, where the only qualifications were to be an instructor was 1, you had a membership at the gym, 2, you trained consistently, and 3, you looked good. And then you were hired. So a lot of people were getting hurt. And that's still happening today, but to a lot less. And the main reason we got more certifications going on, more certified instructors, is because the gym owners had realized their insurance companies wouldn't cover them unless they were hiring insured personal trainers, certified personal trainers.
We don't go through resumes here on the podcast because people get a little tuned off listening to people talk about themselves and their own resumes. But I encourage people to take a look at André's background. There's a serious gentleman with serious training in different things, in human kinetics, and you've been an instructor, teaching faculty member at different places. You've been around this sector for a long time. You don't come to any of these views lightly. So I encourage people, when you listen to this podcast, check out what he's done. Trainer, fitness leaders, director of the year for different groups, educator of the year. So we're glad to have you as a member with what we're doing and to have this conversation. We like to inspire people on the call, on the podcast, and get them thinking about moments where they have been a mentor, good and bad, or when they've been mentored. So give me a story about yourself, either when you had a mentor or you maybe mentored someone, but more importantly about someone who changed your career path. Because I am a believer that we all do great things every day. But when you change someone's path by giving them a little hand up or a little direction, you do more with that than anything else you do in your career.
Perfect. So there's 2 mentors I had. One was in high school. His name was Mr. Gatilla. Mr. Gatilla looked like a gorilla. He was a big bodybuilder. Okay. So we called him Gatilla the gorilla, right? But he was the nicest man. And he took no crap from anybody. But what he did was he put effort and work into his lessons. And he made everything fun. And he came up with learning processes that showed me learning could be fun. And then the second mentor for me was the director of the physical education department at McGill University. He came to our high school to speak about becoming a phys ed teacher. And he was so impressive with making me feel like I could make such a contribution to the youth in the community that I then went to McGill University, studied phys ed, became a phys ed teacher. And I was a teacher for 2 years, private school and public. And so they both gave me the inspiration. I hated school for the longest time. And I have to tell you, when I met these individuals, they inspired me to create innovative learning processes that I use in my school to students. 10 years, 20 years later, they meet with me on the street or what, and they say, I still remember the bone dance. I still remember the Jeopardy game. I still remember the muscle hustle. So they're very impactful processes that were inspired by other instructors.
It's funny, every time we do this, I think of a new one. And now I'm sitting here thinking about Mr. Tanner, who was our track coach in junior high school and coached me into university through different clubs. But he instilled in me a drive of hard work and consistency. When it came to the track and field training, I was a sprinter. Do another, and get that routine down. And he instilled in me a bit more maybe tenacity and consistency than I probably had before. And I'd never thought about him until you started talking about the gym teacher. And we can all have an impact, right? We can all have an impact every single day, good and bad.
Absolutely.
So that's a really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I hope we also, interestingly, we talk about this, wondering if they knew you. Do you think they know that they were mentors to you?
Yes. I told them how amazing I thought they were and how I wanted to be just like them.
Well, that's awesome. So I'm going to bring it to a close there, André. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I know we've talked about ways of recreating with your team what you do across the country. I encourage our other colleges that are listening today to think about that, whether there's a fit in a small way into a program or in a larger way to work with you across the country, because there's definitely a need. And if you're seeing a 28% shortage in British Columbia, you know that shortage is happening everywhere else across Canada too.
Mm-hmm.
We see that. And I encourage our listeners today to think about this, not as a career or as a job, but this is an extension of our healthcare system, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. There is exercise in medicine. And so now this organization is from the American College of Sports Medicine all across Canada in the States, educating doctors on making fitness activity, physical activity, a prescription. So they actually will get prescription pads and prescribe physical activity. So exercise in medicine.
Very interesting. So I look forward to seeing you again soon when I'm out your way, André. And I really appreciate you taking the time and for doing what you do. We were going to talk about the challenges you went through in COVID, which must have been unique running a career college with studios, but you said you popped right back up and you got right back at it, didn't you?
Absolutely. Versatile, right? You think laterally and you just work with it.
I was having lunch with a friend today and they reminded me that careers aren't ladders, they're lattices now. And I think that's an interesting perspective for some of the students you talked about earlier that came in doing something different and they went across the lattice work sideways to go do something completely different.
Exactly.
Thank you for joining, André. I think this has been a great chat. I hope people enjoyed it. And as I said, I look forward to seeing you again in person. And I look forward to being back with all of you on next week's episode of the EdUp Canada podcast. Thanks for listening to another episode of the EdUp Canada podcast. We release new episodes regularly, so make sure you hit that subscribe button so you know when they are officially out. If you love this episode, please leave a 4- or 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts so that others can also discover how a set of skills can lead to success. Thanks for learning with us.